Yep. Hit that like for me, everybody. How y'all doing out there? Happy New Year. Happy New Year's Day. I hope you're starting off 2024. How many people have written it down wrong so far? I do that for the first 2 weeks, I think. And, probably about halfway through January, I start realizing the year changed. How's everybody doing? Bernice, it's lovely to see you. Hope everyone survived last night. Too many fireworks for me. You know what? I was I was definitely in bed. I was awake. I did stay awake. But hey Pammy, welcome in. And all of a sudden everything just went off. And the whole time all this is going off, the cats ran in every direction. I can imagine everybody going through the trauma. But I mean it was loud. I mean you could feel it. It was palpable and all around me and I just kept thinking, how do you know? What a perfect time for somebody to pull some crap, right? And it's so loud and it's nuts. Anyway, celebrate the way you're going to celebrate. Just don't hurt yourself or somebody else. Hello, Vixen Doe. Hello. It was wonderful reading your comments today underneath the YouTube videos. I thank you so much. And everybody that writes in the comments, it's great. Sometimes we'll have conversations. We're answering questions from the episode. We're filling in the blanks. There's so many with me because I have that thing where as soon as I start thinking of a name, it goes blank. Soon as I focus on trying to, even if I know it as well as my own, and it's always been like that with me. I don't know what it is. It's just got worse as I've gotten older. But and then it'll pop into my head days later. But the wonderful thing about this chat is sometimes it'll come up in the chat, sometimes it'll come in the comments after, or it's real encouraging words about the show or the episode or the guest or the subject. Somebody got something out of it. Somebody thought a little deeper about something. Maybe went down a different road on another thing, added some knowledge to, an interest. And it's always great to hear that. So thank you so much. And I hope in 2024 we can do more of that for each other too. I ask you to do that. Look, money's tight. Not everybody can buy a t-shirt or a mug. If you do, T Public, it's right, tpublic.com/Cisco. You can go in there and get a crispy mug. You can get a hoodie, hats, whatever your heart desires. It's more, well, I shouldn't say that in this world because who knows, right? But most things would be there with crispy on it, or some of the show themes and episodes, special episodes, and crispy sayings and stuff like that. And for those who don't know, crispy is our mascot. He is the little ghost that's in the logo and in all the episode art and stuff like that. That's crispy. I couldn't do it without crispy. He's my editor. He just, hey Scott, welcome in. How's that cabin coming? I am drinking rose mint tea tonight. Now, I was gonna say something, but I figured I better say this first. I think Steve may not be able to come tonight, and I know that's disappointing. But I wanted to tell you right out, in case you were waiting for him to pop on. I think he is not feeling well, and I think it's just something it's going around. And so we send out healing energy to him if he cannot be here tonight. I think that's what I saw, but I'm afraid to touch any of the equipment right now because everything's running smooth. I had to reload, so I lost all my videos, but I can get them back. You're just going to have to watch me stumble bum through it, but there it is. We're just going to get through it together because I've got a lot of cool stuff to show you for the new year. And, some looking back. I've got a good ghost story about an island. If I'm not mistaken, it is near Australia, and they call it the Island of Ghosts. And it's the first time I heard it. Choo choo, Bernice, amen. What would 2024? I can't even say the year. And there's a reason for that because I thought I had Steve on here tonight, and I thought I had a little backup. So I was loading videos and cleaning out the computer and finding all kind of great stuff for you guys to see tonight, and putting together some other stuff. I'm also working on my son's and new daughter-in-law's wedding video, so I'm doing that. And work is bombastic because the holidays, and you think that there would be a break now, but no. What happens now, the unfortunate thing about floral designing, and floral shops, especially privately owned ones like I work for. The unfortunate fact, and something we talk about on the show here all the time, people passing, and they hold everybody off during the holidays for the most part. You know, I know that's a terrible thing to talk about, but it's the truth. So tomorrow is like almost like Valentine's Day for funerals, and it's going to be crazy. So we're working extra hours and extra stuff. So in between all this, I decided, hey, it's New Year's. I'm gonna get all my editing done and do all this other stuff. And since I got Steve on tonight, I'm gonna open up my presents. Well, I already opened the presents, but I haven't used the presents. But you see, I have to understand, I have some naughty elves. You know, naughty elves work for my Santa, and I got blessed with gummies and some other things for arthritis pain and stuff like that, which is great with the cream. Stuff's not cheap, I'm telling you, especially stuff that works good. I mean, a lot of this stuff over the counter. Listen, one of the best pieces of advice I can give anybody out there that is trying to get more to the natural side of things, and you're trying CBD cream or things like that, topicals, do not judge them all by one. There's certain ones that are going to work for you and certain ones that are just trash from the beginning. And then there's the really good ones, but even in the really good ones, you have to find the one that works for you. Okay. So don't just, you get a little bit, don't go whole hog and buy, 55-gallon drum of the stuff. Get a small amount, try some, test, find different ways to try, trial and error. But man, if you get a good one, whew, it's a blessing on top of the other herbs like the claw and, that I always talk about and some other things. You can get through these. It's just like we were talking about last night, tools in your toolbox for light workers. And a lot of us are, our light's been shining a little longer than other people's. So things are kicking in, you know what I mean? So the thing is I got that and I got some other stuff and I got some funny honey. So I brewed myself up a big old cup of rose and mint tea with funny honey. So the games begin. So lots of healing light out to Steve and anybody else who needs it tonight, by all means. And I'm trying to see this chat here, but I'm a little too far away. You see me like trying to scooch up here so I can read these chats. But if I haven't said hi to you, let me roll through real fast. Pammy, welcome in, honey. So glad to see you here. Scott, how you doing? How's the cabin coming? I watched one of your videos. I followed you in on your icon here, and I watched your walkabout video, and I loved it. It looks like heaven. I don't know if you've loaded anymore. It's been a hot minute since I've been over there, but if you haven't, you go over there and subscribe to Scott's channel, because listen, homestead, and I'm telling you, like the old days, this is why do you think I look at history so much? Because history tells you how to survive the nonsense, right? So welcome in. Hey, Caillou, welcome, welcome, welcome. Has anybody seen pancakes? I haven't seen pancakes in a while. Renese, hi love. How you doing? Vixen Doe, of course. But Straw Dog, welcome. Vixen and I have the little convo in the comments tonight on the videos, like I was talking about earlier. And it means a lot. So in times when it's tight, it doesn't cost anything to hit the like. It doesn't cost anything to comment under the videos. It doesn't cost anything to share. I realize it's, an acquired taste for sure. Not everybody wants to share out to their family or followers on social media because of the paranormal, supernatural. Nobody wants to hear it kind of thing. I get it. But if you have a group that would dig it, put it out there. Hey, Uncommon, thank you for all the help. And thank you to all the mods who help keep the chat, chill. I appreciate it. Susan, you should be up and cleaning your house now. We love you. I hope things are working out good for you. Stay the course. Stay the course. I'm living proof. So there's your inspiration, your motivation. Ian, I hope you got that. What was he shopping for? Tablet? Mairead, Happy New Year to you if you're still out there. And if I missed you, I'm so sorry, but We'll try to catch you coming around the other side. Okay. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? I mentioned a few things, but I also went back and I found some fun stuff. Now, again, you're going to have to watch me hunt and peck here, but you know, why should tonight be any different? But it's going to be worth it because this is really chill. I found this and I put it together for you guys because I thought it'd be a cute little vid, but now I got to find it. No, here it is right here. Look at that. See? The spirit guides are already with us for 2004. I'm going to drop it and then I'm going to stop it here. Drop it and stop it. Yep, that's it. Cool beans. All right. So, right out the gate, this is about 10 minutes long. So, again, this has a little reading to it. Hey, thank you, Uncommon. There's my PayPal too. Listen, if you've got, if you don't, I understand on the inner tubes. We love, we love, we love, YouTube, but they do take quite a chunk. So if super chats aren't your bag and you want to see, more money come to the channel, you can go through my PayPal and I get a lot more of that. So there you go. And it's also real incognito. You don't even, sometimes I don't even realize who it is because the name changes. It doesn't come up the same as it was in chat. Some of them I can tell. But boy, I tell you, Steve has got some crazy ones. I had to call him once and ask him, I said, man, is this you? And he goes, yeah, I was doing, he was doing some ghost writing at the time and the name showed the genre. Let's just put it that way. Happy 2024, everybody. I'm telling you, this is good. It's not too sweet and it doesn't have a harsh aftertaste, Oh, funny, honey. So I hope everything went well for you guys for the holidays. It's above. What's above? Oh, right there, Scott. Thank you. Yep, there it is. Here, I'll put it up. There you go. Thank you for asking. Now, listen, again, like I was saying, if you want to help the channel, but listen, times are tight. So you got to get, you got to get jiggy with it. So hit the like. Maybe share it on your channel and say, hey, yo, if you subscribe to my channel, I might be about crocheting or, fixing engines. But hey, if you dig this, or need something else different to listen to other than fear mongering, or whatever, this is, not only is it talking about ghosts and interesting ghost stories and guests and things like that, conspiracy, whodunits, that whole thing. But, we try to be positive and tell you how to get through the muck and the mire too. Hey, Monica, welcome in. Good to see you. Oh, your eyes are heavy. Well, just close your eyes and listen, sweetie. We've got some other things. Listen, there's some reading coming up. So, but I think that's it for the whole, it's one of those videos that has a couple of little, informative little things that pop up. So, but other than that, it's my voice, if you can stand that. And, a really good video from the Extraordinary out of Australia about Ghost Island. So that'll be cool. So this is kind of neat. So this what I'm going to play is. So I guess, let me finish off the other. I told you it's going to be a rough ride. Sorry, guys. Thought it was going to help tonight. Y'all are going to have to help me get through. So the thing I was saying is it doesn't cost a thing to hit the like or share it on your channel. Go to other people's channels. If you have a channel here, you're welcome to drop a link. Listen, we're all trying to help each other out, right? Because again, super chats aren't for everybody. There's a little heart at the bottom. I think once the video drops where you can say I think it's a thank you thing. Again, that goes through YouTube, which is great. I love super chats. I'm not saying don't. But PayPal is a nice alternative. I don't have Cash App and Zelle and all that. And I'll tell you why. I have stood in my shop, not looking for it, and bumped into, I want to say 3 people that they either just had their bank account sucked out through one of these Cash Apps, they hit the wrong link. They got a call, and the call actually came up with their bank logo, their bank number, It's crazy. One lady, she was standing there talking to my boss about paying for her flowers for her mother's memorial. And she gets this email or call from her bank. She thinks it's her bank. Next thing you know, they're sucking out money through that Zelle app. I think she lost like 7 grand right there while I was making her mother's memorial flowers. Saddest thing. And there are, you have to understand, it's so hard for people that have compassion and emotion and heart and conscience and a moral compass to understand that there are those who walk around without those things. No emotion, no, just psycho, from your, full tilt boogie psychopaths to your all out evil, doing it for evil, period. Do you know what I mean? And it's so hard to wrap your mind around that exists. So be careful out there, you know. And because people ask me all the time, why don't you have this one, this one, this one? It's too much to keep an eye on, you know. And I don't want to make it hard for people to help out. So that's why I'm saying share it on your channel. You never know, one person, might grab it up on your Instagram, on your Snapfish, and your what else is out there? The okay, so I'm just, never mind, I'm gonna shut up. So share it if you can, help out if you can. So this little film, hang on. Happy New Year. So this little film is taking on the whole New Year and predictions and kind of resolutions and things like that, but leaning more towards the prediction side of it, and thinking of how people like Edgar Casey and Sylvia Brown or Sybil Leek or, oh gosh, Jean Dixon and so many different people, Nostradamus, throw them out there if you think of one. Even I think you can throw like Mesmer in there with his mesmerizing and his hypnotizing. And Ben Franklin was, all about this. Even George Washington, as far as predictions and prophecy, very, very religiously based, but nonetheless. And, speaking of religion, the whole Bible, prophecy. So, and then at the same time, you'll have small parts in there that say, don't look to prophets. So, that's one of the things that's always very contradictory, because you don't know what to take. You've got the translation, then you've got the lost in translation, then you have the what you really feel that it is, which is kind of what we go with. I think most people, that's their default. It's like, I kind of think this is what it means, because after that amount of time, you know what I mean? So, and then you've got the contradictions in there that you go, how can both be true at the same time? And I think that's what makes people very confused. And then back, I say the same thing, back up away from it. What looks right to you, start there. Start with your foundation, and that's what I mean when I say there's people that walk around that don't have any of those considerations whatsoever. They do very evil things and they don't even think about it. This is why what do you call lie detector tests are not admissible in court, because people without that emotion and without that physical bodily response, and to questions and to being questioned and answering and telling the truth or a lie, pathological liars and whatnot, and psychopaths, they don't have any reaction on those machines. And if you have control of those things and you're a totally different bird, and you have more control of those things, and even though you do have emotions, you can beat it. It's all about, but it's the same as, some teachings of Tibetan tribes and monks and you name it. And that's what I mean. Every time we have one of these discussions, it's all connected. It all ribbons through. It's all similar. The similarities outweigh the differences in many cases. I won't say all, but in many. Do you agree? So it seems silly to argue about so many of the differences when I believe personally, and I think some people here too, why aren't we bringing up the commonalities? Light beats dark. That's a given. Every story. Love and kindness. wins. Even in the toughest battles, the final thing is always the faith and the instrument, the ritual. You know what I mean? And the intent. It's wild, isn't it? So, anyway, predictions. I don't know. I'm looking to see if I. John Bell. Yep. 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 Okay, there's one. Yes. Nikola Tesla. Yes. I have no social media. Scott, smoke signals. Can you put it up in smoke signals? That's the old way of sharing. Just find it, Morse code it out. I know it's rough. Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast, 8 p.m. Eastern. It shouldn't be hard for you to sort that. That's something you can work on. A little thing, a little project, maybe till spring. Till spring, as if you didn't have anything else to do, right? Smoke signals. Hey, Miss Tessa, welcome in, welcome in. Let's see. Washington was a Mason too. Yep. So for sure he was into some weird stuff. Yeah. So that's it. Where is the weird and where was the stuff that makes sense? And who's calling what weird? Because you had people calling Jesus a witchcraft. You had people burnt at the stake that we know darn well were herbalists and possibly something called, similar to a green witch. If listen, I will tell you right now, I know quite a few different people I've met in my lifetime. And I can tell you that if they had gone after an honest to goodness witch that had some power behind them, what they were saying they were finding, they'd have never done it. Never gotten away with it. What they got was, in my opinion, green witches, herbalists, people who were using herbal cures, people who might had a little, energy manipulation in there, maybe a little spell work, maybe a little old wives, this or granny witch that, but nothing like, they're trying to portray as far as like what you would consider a witch with power and knowledge and wisdom and the willingness to use that, usually in a dastardly kind of way. That's the kind I'm talking about, where they would go, and it doesn't have to be that bad either. I mean, it doesn't have to be where, you might be envisioning, all this, bubble, toil and trouble kind of thing. It could be as simplistic as, good example, in the beginning of Practical Magic, okay, there was the story, if I can get it correct, the story was someone that they were related to, of course, the living now that in the time period the movie was made, were living in an old Victorian house. And in that Victorian house, their bloodline had lived. And in that town, one of them, let's say a century back, whatever, had been hung as a witch. But what she had done was did some herbal cures, fell in love with the wrong guy. He was getting caught. Somehow there was some finger pointing going on, and she winds up getting hung, right? And while she's getting hung, she curses the town or curses the bloodline. I think she did. I think that's what she did. She may have put a little something on the townspeople too. But as simple and as quiet as that, she just said it. Okay. There's the case of, I forget the guy's name now. The one that was getting weighted down with rocks, right? In Salem, I believe. It was during that time where it was the one male that was killed, and they put the door on him and kept adding rock, more weight to crush him. It was terrible the way they did. But this was the religious way to go about things. I never understood that mess. That's the kind of stuff I don't get, But we're doing this for God, Okay. So because we love you, we love you so much, we're gonna rip you apart. Doesn't make sense to me. So anyhow, that was supposedly he cursed the town. Okay, So anybody who was ever a part of that town, had like bad luck and stuff like that. Countless number of stories where you hear an Indian chief or an Indian that survived the massacre cursed the town, and there's been trouble ever since. And anybody that tried to live there suffered greatly. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be a big bombastic spell and lightning and thunder coming out of the sky and frogs jumping all over the place and stuff. Words have power. Another quick story. Here we go. This is a great example, and it scares the shit out of me, and it should you. Lynn was talking about it last night. It's thoughts and words, and talking about self-cursing and the things we say have power, right? Okay? You tracking me? There's a story, and the guy has a similar story, very, very similar in some ways to Bill Bean, where he grew up in a haunted house, except it was more mellow. Okay? His mom supposedly had some kind of abilities, and he knew it, and they kind of took it for granted. And she would say stuff like, he'd say, who are you looking at, Mom? It's like the lady standing in the window. And he said sometimes he could see the lady standing in the window. So he had guessed he had them too. So it was always something they talked about, in his family, even though under hushed tones, it was still talked about. So he had some knowledge. So something happens. His mom's there. She lives in the house forever, a long, long time. He goes away to school, gets married, has a kid. Something happens to Mom. He inherits the house. He's in the house now with his 3-year-old and his wife, right? So he figures he's there long enough, and he sees his kid talking to people in the room like he used to see. So now he figures it's gone another generation, and now his son is seeing the same ghosts he probably saw when he was a kid, and that his mom saw for sure. Okay. And there were several in the house. So there was this lady, and then there was this, and she seemed to be very calm. Sometimes she'd go in and out the back door. You'd hear the screen door close, and sometimes you'd see her walk through the kitchen. This is all him telling it. Sometimes she'd walk through the kitchen. Sometimes you'd see her. Sometimes you wouldn't. And then most of the time it was standing at this big picture window that faced the front of the house and off into the street in the front yard and all. And then there was another one. I can't remember. I think it was I just dropped the cat. A young boy, teenager. Okay. That he was used to seeing, but he would only see him in fleeting, like going through the yard or, going from one room to another, but disappearing halfway down the hall kind of thing. And his mom always said it was nothing to worry about. So he didn't worry about it. And he didn't see it that often. But he's just now starting to rethink these things. He's like, oh man, I forgot about this. And here we are again. Can you imagine? Well, yeah, I can, because it had kind of happened to me. But so I can kind of sort of wrap my mind around that one. It's not pleasant, I assure you. So anyway, this guy, now he has a son, and these things are starting to come back, and the memories, and he's not seeing as much anymore, but he notices his son is seeing. So he's reading the paper one morning, and they're going about their morning routine. His son's there at the table, and his wife's, whatever, in the kitchen. And he reads that the sirens he heard the night before that were so close to his home, he didn't know what had happened, but he sees in the paper now what it was. And down the street, about a block, was a stop sign, 4-way stop, and there was a bad accident. And it was a young man who was driving drunk. Apparently it had a history of doing so, had ran in and T-boned a family that was driving in a car. It was a mom, she was pregnant, and there was another child in the car, all gone. Okay. So he took it hard, being a dad, and reacting out loud to this guy doing this. Okay. And yelled some, things out about the guy, like, how could you be so stupid to be drunk driving, and look what you did, and you took out this beautiful family. He was really upset, and he's pounding on the table and everything else, and he's yelling these things. Well, the guy has abilities. Excuse me. And there's obviously some energy in this house, and it wasn't far away. Well, some kind of energy, some kind of connection through his actions, his abilities, the location, the guy who caused the accident, his state of mind as he passed, because he passed too. They all died in that accident. And imagining the state of mind this young man must have been in, we don't know how drunk or what he was thinking or what he knows. And this guy having abilities, and the child living in the house having abilities, and the mother having abilities living in there for decades, and the other spirits in the house. This is just me spitballing here. And the way he spoke of it, he kind of leans this way too. I believe if he was sitting here, he'd agree with me. That all those things together created this almost perfect storm where this disembodied driver, who was, I believe, in his late 20s, attached to this man. And he cursed him, saying his name and saying the things he was saying in the emotion he was saying them, with all those other things I mentioned before at the same time. So there's a big learning thing. This gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, don't speak ill of the dead. If that isn't information for 2024, because here's the thing. Understand that we're accountable for our words. One of the scariest things. And as Lynn said, our thoughts as well. So if you catch yourself going down that thing, maybe it's also because it takes us down a road we shouldn't go down. Maybe it draws us a little lower than below the line. And we're supposed to be using our abilities and our knowledge, however little we may have in that vast, universe of knowledge. We have just a couple pieces of the puzzle here. We know that light beats dark. We know that we are the light. And how we choose through our free will to use that can magnify its power. And by studying ghost stories and witness statements from, experiencers, and what they saw, what they felt, what was the history, what matches, over and over and over again, which I've been doing all my life, helps you sort, almost like a paranormal sieve. You know what I mean? And we're just trying to keep all the good stuff, cream rise to the top. That's what we're trying to do. Because the knowledge of those things, and knowing that they're all connected, at least assuming that in some way they're all connected. I mean, if it's energy, that's a given, right? Because energy, we're just all energy. So knowing these things also help us to be better light warriors down the road. It helps you be a better function in your neighborhood, at your job, with other people, with family members, with people you live with in your home. All of these things, because again, it doesn't mean we're gonna stop having these things happen, or we're gonna stop being irritated by that coworker. We're gonna stop being irritated by the phone calls from that person, or that driver on the road, or that person in line. But we've got to kind of tap the brakes a little bit and think about. And we might not catch it every time, and that's okay. We're working on it, because I believe that's another thing where we almost have to look at other people and realize that might be a young soul. They're all about materialism and this and that, and they can't get it fast enough, and they can't get enough of it, and they can't. Everything is a quick satisfying thing, and nothing is really appreciated, because even though you may have had to work for it one way or another, you're not really working for it. It's like that series I'm watching now with the Edwardian and Victorian farms and things like this. They made everything. I mean, I watched them do a Christmas in World War II. I believe it was 44. And in this little town, they were all there was thousands of these people living in these tunnels that went like 22 miles, spiderwebbed underground. And they were old mines that they had in this, somewhere in the UK. I can't remember where. But anyway, a lot of these townspeople, they would pay just a little bit to have a cot down in there and everything just, spider-webbed out. And, they would try to get food down there and everything else to them. And these people would stay for months. They'd go out and they do their thing and they come back. It's like hiring a cot, I guess. And they talked about how one year the last Christmas before the war ended, that they had spent Christmas down there and they used all these decorations and stuff to decorate it, and how they kept turning. It was fabulous because they all got together and they said, well, I have this and I can make these things. I have a bunch of carrots stored up so we can make candied carrots, and that would be like a treat for everybody. And then we've got hunters that can go out and get rabbit, and then we can do this, we can do that. And they all like band together. This huge town. It was amazing. And one of my favorite things was they had, during World War II, the Germans would send in one plane, a recon plane or whatever, but they would also drop these almost look like strips of mylar. It was a very thin foil like, thing. So it was probably something, the granddaddy of mylar, and very foil looking, very reflective, but still had a lot of movement to it. And they would drop these, just bushels of these things, and it would set off all the radar. So, they'd think that there was a big fleet coming in, so they'd send all their reserves and stuff that way, and it would be a big distraction and stuff. And they did that several times, but this stuff littered all around, and they collected everything. They kept everything. So when Christmas came around, and this one specific Christmas, they took all those things and turned them into Christmas decorations. So they turned this negative to a positive. And negative to a positive is the base meaning of Corvid medicine. So crow medicine, any of the Corvid family. And I have that. And one of the coolest parts of ever going to powwows and hanging out with elders and, your people, a lot of the people out there are trying to find out what that means too, but in their own way. And you just learn so much from each one. But anyway, when I was told that I was able, that was one of my abilities, one of my characteristics, so I could carry crow medicine, it was because I could take a negative and turn it to a positive. So this just amazed me what they were doing, but they weren't the only ones. You can take stories like that through any kind of struggle or strife of a people, a culture, a group, a family that does that, and they get through the biggest diversities you can imagine. Why? With positive, turning negatives to positives. Okay, working together, doing what you can do, what's your ability, and then when you bring that into the whole paranormal supernatural world, or just surviving, being in this spiritual warfare, all of it is the same. Banding together, using your skill, understanding the basics, turning negatives to positives, and keeping your lights on, and trying to use all these little tools, And if that's something that you guys are interested in, I'll say it again. It's on YouTube. I think it's available in most countries. If not, try Tubi, and if not, try archive.gov. Check there. But you can watch those. I mean, right now I'm in the middle of watching them. It's the longest and biggest archaeological task ever undertaken like this. And they're taking 25 years to build a 13 around 13 the year 1300, a castle the way they did then, and living the way they did then within the castle walls. And they're doing the masonry and the food and just everything, the animals that they would have had, the clothes they would have worn, the food they would have eaten, the crops they would have grown, and how they did it and how they saved it. And again, it's not only cool historically, but it gives you ideas of, hey, that's a pretty neat idea. I bet I could make my own butter. I bet I could do this. Or, my family would enjoy, good old fashioned chutney or whatever it may be. or whatever recipe. I think that in there somewhere they even did the old fashioned fruit cake. And I know that I've never had a taste for fruit cake, but this is the way that they preserve that fruit, you know, and in all that alcohol and everything else, so they could have it, you know, further on down the line. All of these things we've forgotten about our ancestors. So here's a little thing about predictions. And toward the end, I added a little bit more about a little advice for 2024 from kind of my ancestors, from the Celtic Scottish background, as well as the Native American in pretty much any tribe, and it talks a little bit about the medicine wheel. And, it's not so much as a premonition, but it's about how to read yourself and appreciate what's around you and see where you fit there. And for a light worker, that's so important. So pretty interesting. It's a little mishmash of a bunch of stuff. So let me see if I've got the right one here. Is this it? It is, it is, it is. Here we go. All right. Sounds good. So this is about 10 minutes.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here. And now, for the first time, we are bringing to you the full story of what happened on that fateful day.
Have any of you ever heard of a movie called Plan 9 from Outer Space?
No?
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
Never. What's it about?
It is about the resurrection of the dead.
Not my type of movie.
Nah,
Sorry.
that's all right.
Would you agree to be interviewed about Plan 9 from Outer Space? Have you ever heard of a...
This is Jean Dixon. So many of you have asked me to interpret the stars for you. Now, I can give you your own horoscope 24 hours a day based on your birthday, even the year. All you need is a touch-tone telephone. You'll hear my special message for you about life, money, and love, also your future. But you must hear for yourself.
Call 1-900-999-2222 from a touch-tone phone. Only 85 cents a minute on your phone bill.
Call me now.
Stuff's just too good. Okay. Now, this I threw in because I wanted to throw in, like I said, a little bit from my bloodline and my culture and some of my ancestors. This is kind of, if you were to sit down and get some advice for your future, this is where I would start. Because if you don't start with yourself and where you're standing, this might be helpful. Here we go.
Loved by the buffalo began to walk the path of a holy man. The way was long and dangerous, but for one who communes with Wakantanka, many things are possible. In the medicine wheel, loved by the buffalo, learned the mysterious realities of life. He saw the sun and moon and seasons come and go in a circle. He saw that all true power moved in a circle.
Sheila. Wowagan. Tinawi Johnny. He unkupi.
Great Spirit gives one gift at birth.
Tuktag Changlashkaki. Akanwa wash.
We are born somewhere on
Yuha
the medicine wheel. We are born with one of the great powers.
Wounspi.
Wisdom,
Togataki.
strength,
Wasaka wo onchi.
big heart,
Taku Yamani.
braveness.
Loved by the buffalo left me wondering what I was born with, and what I had yet to acquire on the wheel. I would spend most of my life looking for the answer.
There you go, gatekeepers. I can't say it any better myself. Where do you stand on the wheel? That's a good place to start. Here you are on your journey, and now it's 2024. Regardless of what's going on around you, where do you stand? Where's your square foot of real estate? Right? Where do you fall on the wheel? Wisdom, generosity, braveness? Something to think about. Because here's the thing, what if we've been forcing ourselves the whole time to be somewhere else, or to think that we're in charge of so much more? If you're part of a wheel, it only works if you're standing there with others. You can't roll that whole wheel by yourself. You're born with one, right? Well, here's the rest of it. You require the rest as you go around your own wheel. And the universe is on around with you. And there's others on the wheel with you. So which one were you born with, and what did you acquire on your journey? And where are you now? Where are you standing? Something to think about. You know, it's easy to get mad at yourself because you lost your temper in traffic. Okay, listen, we're human. You know, the thing is you're thinking about it. You're not going to be perfect. You know, that's stated right at nobody's perfect, you know. But where are you on the wheel, and why are you going through those things, and what are your guides or your higher self, or what did you choose? Say maybe, you know, when you were in spirit before, if you believe in reincarnation and soul groups, did you sit around with your soul group and chart this whole thing out and pick hardships and things you wanted to work on because of the previous life before that? Think about it. If so, where are you now? And what are you doing? See, that's, I think, too, an interesting thing to think about. And I want you guys to think about this too. All paranormal investigators and everybody out there. And again, we really are all paranormal investigators. I mean, whether you're just a researcher or somebody that just likes the stories, or if you like to be scared, or, you know, for whatever reason, or if you're really trying to dig down deep and try to get just some answers. You know that you're wise enough to know that you're not going to have them all, but some of them would be nice, little validation here and there, and that's what you shoot for, you know. And it satisfies you because, listen, there's enough evidence out there. We've proven that time and time and time again. Every single one of us that's ever told a story or borrowed a book or shared a book to somebody else or recommended a movie or a podcast, or, you know, sat in the chat, you know, and talked about a certain ghost story or a certain cryptid or a UFO or an abduction or maybe Dogman, portals, you know, keep going, right? We're all investigators one way or another, you know, because I don't want people to think that, you know, because I don't belong to a specific group and I don't go out and do paranormal investigation. I think we all do. And I think that's it. If you think about it like being a paranormal medicine wheel, okay, you know, another wheel, a circle, everybody else is part of it. We keep forgetting that, right? That everybody is supposed to be, you know, getting it. You know, it's like those people in the castle. Okay, listen, not everybody's hunting. You have people that go out and hunt, bring the meat back. You know, people that process the meat, and people who cook the meat, people who serve the meat, people clean up after that, people who do the laundry, and people who, you know, keep the you know, the moat running. You know, people that keep whatever. You know, the castle floors clean. You know, people who, you know, hang out with the king and all this other stuff. Everybody's got a job. Whether you're talking about military or a town or you know, a village, a tribe. It only works if people are working together. It never works if people are working against each other. Any story in any little town, from Jamestown to a fort to whatever, if the people weren't working together and worked against each other, and there was some kind of conspiracy, and people were trying to outdo each other, or little gangs form, and think Andersonville, Civil War prison, think any prison, think any prison camp or POW camp. Just, do you get my drift? I mean, even schools to a certain degree are like that, because it's like, it's the same concept. If you're not working together, you're working against each other, and nothing is accomplished by the group. Only the individuals that are strong enough to withstand that. Does that make sense? So people are going to get trampled on and hurt and left behind, and it's the same. And that's the way it is in the paranormal. You're going to have your shining stars and your people that get lifted up, with help and hard work and multiple stories. And now they're focusing on, now they find themselves on a train where it's really conducted by somebody completely other than themselves. And in order to maintain the lifestyle that they jumped into, they have to continue to please that conductor. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that's true of many things, whether you're a movie star or whatever. Anybody really. And then before you know it, it's not fun anymore. And you're not really hands-on anymore. You've got people that do that, And I think it's the same with, like, if you were a wonderful, just a, great teenager out in the middle of, any town USA. And your number one thing, getting through school, you're not good in school, you're not good at this, but you're good at sports. And you're good at basketball. And, you're broke and, your life is twisted upside down, but man, you can get a basketball. And somebody else has got that, gnarly hoop that's up there in that little park. And just after a certain amount of time, if I got together with the right guys, you get out there, and it's magical to these young people. And then they get in and they do good in high school, and there's a big fish and, small pond. And before you know it, they get out of there. Then they wind up in the next thing in the college, and bam, you get to be a pro. I think at some point in time, it ceases to probably be fun. And depending on which road you take, whether it's like the money is like, man, I don't care, man. They want to name a sneaker after me and give me millions I don't give, but how many are really happy, and how many choose the right road and get out okay? It's the same in you can fill in the blank with just about anything: movie star, religious, evangelists, sports, across the board, CEOs, companies, careers, lawyers, pretty much anything, right? Well, that happens in the paranormal too. Because gosh, we've got the evidence, don't we? How many stories have you heard? How many ghost stories have you heard where you believe the person believed the story that they were saying? You weren't there, you didn't see it, but you believe that person. You have no reason to doubt that person's account of their experience. How many books of true ghost stories? How many haunted house stories? How many, the house, the tombstones got moved and they left the bodies there, and they built a development and everybody's moving out. Now you've got multiple families that don't know each other in the same town. I can name 3 off the top of my head. And I don't, and I certainly don't know everything. There's got to be more. If there's, you know what I mean? How many stories have you heard? How many accounts of Bigfoot sightings or abductions, right? So the evidence isn't the problem. We continue to seek it because we're interested in it, and it helps us understand. But why aren't we further in the understanding that it's all connected? So, why are we still fighting? So that's something maybe we can work on in the paranormal in 2023. Because I don't think we're helping each other. I think there is not if we're fighting. If we understand that, I think that there is a thinning of the veil for sure. Whatever's causing that, I think it's multiple things. I think it's through spells and magic and ritual and intention, and a lot of that is not good. Okay, some of it is counteracting. So but there's that, and there's the times we're in, and it's a spiritual warfare. It's like happening more rapid now. It's pouring in every way you can think. And some you can't see. You feel it. So if we can get to the point where we get it and we realize that there's a rapid kind of increase in the amount of ghosts that we're noticing, not just because more people are looking and paying attention. They've always been there. But we're seeing it from the other side coming in as well. So that seems like there's something going on to, I don't want to word it wrong, but something like a cleaning up, a readying. Does it make sense? I don't know. You kind of understand what I mean when I say that? Like a preparing for something. So they're trying to get, or they can now, because of the thinning, get more of these people crossed, these earthbound spirits who really didn't quite understand that they had a choice. Because like Lynn said last night, there's some that have no intention, and that's their choice. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. You got to leave that up to, whatever's next. That makes sense? But for the ones we can, there seems to be a great importance, and this should comfort you. There seems to be a great importance in, let me get this right, in making sure that the earthbound ghost knows the choices it has. Okay. So there seems to be an awful lot more help coming, and it's prevalent. And that's, I think, a sign of the times. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe they have no connection, but it seems to make sense. It makes as much sense to me as saying that you're going to have a lot of negative entities around a place that has a lot of violence and death and despair and depression and giving up and suffering, because there's loose there. That's where the food is. It's like telling me, and again, I don't disagree. I don't need any evidence to tell me that, because it's the same thing as my understanding that vultures circle over a dead carcass waiting for it to die because there's food there. And it's similar to this, what we would consider a negative feeding, and almost what's the word I'm looking for? Like something that would repel us. You know what I mean? It's disgusting to us to think of it, and we feel like it's negative. It approaches our minds negative. Well, these are these beings, and I was talking about a little last night about the things in the trees and these humanoids that are crouching on buildings and stuff like that, and they don't appear positive to me. I have no proof or evidence to say otherwise, but it's like common sense, right? And to me, that's how I look at it. Now, if somebody else looks at it a different way, I'm all ears. But it's just, since I don't have any other information, I have to use what I have, and that clicks for me. Does this make sense to you guys? Of course, there would be negative beings there that need negative energy and uses suffering and loss and all of the negative things that happen to give off that kind of energy. Death being one of the number one. We've had Mark Nesbitt in here talking about just a broken bone changes the atmosphere by the energy that it disperses when it breaks. Imagine a battlefield. When you're a light worker and you're trying to understand this, and you're of the consciousness level where you know you don't get it all, but there's stuff out there that's starting to kind of make sense. Yeah, that kind of goes together. This is, this is clicking. I'm tracking this, That's where you want to be in 2024. And further, because a lot of people are getting downloads, a lot of people, their consciousness is changing like this. They're starting to notice, like, whoa, this Mandela effect. I remember this. This is crazy. Something else changed. Something else. Every time they make that, hey, Aunt Edna, I was just thinking of you, sweetheart. Get in here. Happy New Year to you, baby. I'm so glad to see you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you, babe. So, see, you get this. Aunt Edna gets this. She'd come in here and say the same thing, right? Once you get that, then you can move to the next thing. Also, you can protect yourself from this other crap, and you can move it off. When you realize it's as simple as these negative entities are there like vultures on a carcass. I hate to say it that way, but you can't tell me they're not around to feed off this suffering and this fear and everything else. We know it to be true, so don't give it to them. The number one way to win is to be the direct opposite, is to know how to win that game. So there's no reason to go in it, into it. If you're over here, now you have the extra time to take your light and use it to the best benefit in your universe, wherever you're standing, right? And magnify it. Because again, when you throw it out there, it magnifies, it ripples. And you're not only helping the people around you and helping win this spiritual warfare, right, by magnifying light, but you're helping yourself too when you cross over, because you're going to get all that stuff back. And all that positivity that you sent out into the world is going to come back. And you're going to see how it affected people and rippled. That's a win-win. That's the number one win-win, right? So, like I said, if studying ghosts and ghost stories and things like that, it's like being in a classroom almost. And thank you, Sugar. And also I'm trying to give people, hope for the future, because it can be so quick. You could turn from here and you'd be feeling great. And 20 minutes later, you hear something, you're right back where you were, because it has a way of that's one thing the darkness has. It's heavy. It's heavy. It's harder to float, I think, than to fall down, So it's got, let's go ahead and let's just give it that one thing. It's heavier, because definitely the light is lighter, So it's a little harder to get up. But once you get there, it's like being on a universal trampoline or something. We bounce back up, sometimes higher, because we know what's, going on. But anyway, I've got to hunt, and because I had to drop this earlier, I'll tell you something. Don't turn away. Don't be afraid of the gummies, folks. They're so specific now that they can help you, like, back pain or whatever you have, or you can't sleep, or you can't focus, or give them a whirl. And now they're not really expensive. And if it can help you, don't jump right into the funny, honey. But, if you're feeling bold, go ahead. I'm not going to stop nobody. But it does help. It definitely helps your back. But I'm going to find this because it's just so cool. What's the name of it? Bear with me. If you guys wanted to, anybody know any jokes or favorite ghost stories, or if you want to put your New Year's resolution down there in the chat while I find this, that would be great. I think that's it. Oh, I found it. Okay. We'll save that for the next one. Enjoy it. Yep. Don't bother keeping in touch, 2023. Just go on. Just go on. You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Get the hell out. Take it, nigga.
By night, it's forbidding, forsaken. The ruins of an outpost that was devoid of humanity, devoid of hope. Ruins which are haunted by the ghosts of the damned.
It would have been the most brutal place on earth. I remember when I was young that it was compared to the concentration camps, Belsen, and the horrors here that went on.
A century and a half ago, Norfolk Island was one of Britain's most notorious penal colonies, a dumping ground for the most vicious, most violent criminals. A jail where the savagery of the inmates was more than matched by the ferocity of their keepers.
It would be called a blood-soaked island because of the blood that was let from lashings. People got sometimes 200 or 300, 400 strokes of the lash, cat o' nine tails. Sometimes their backs, the skin was flayed off their backs so that the bones were showing. And there were also so many murders. Quite often a convict would just up and kill the next fellow to him for no reason at all.
Within the first 2 weeks, they had something like 11 hangings. Their punishment was such that that they were committing ridiculous crimes just to get the death penalty. I mean, they would treat
I would say probably at least 50% of the people who live here have heard of or have seen or felt some strange phenomenon. It's very hard to explain, but once you've seen it, you never forget. That is for sure. closed with a great bang.
I could take a week to tell of ghostly experiences that I have. No, it's certainly different. I mean, I can feel it. I can even feel it now.
Puss Anderson is the boss of Norfolk's restoration team, working in the heart of the historic Kingston area, the site of the old jail. Like many islanders, he admits he's superstitious, but he's convinced Kingston is haunted.
When we were restoring the barracks, we came across a convict settle or seat, or settee, in our modern day terms.
That wooden seat's been traced back to the 99th Regiment, stationed on the island last century. 2 years ago, Puss Anderson and his team stored the seat in the Royal Engineers Office, right in the heart of the old convict settlement. Every night, they checked that it was okay. Every morning when they returned, the seat had been moved, sometimes violently. All the doors were bolted, all the windows locked. No human could have entered that room. And this went on day after day, until a medium from New Zealand arrived on the scene.
She said it's the body of a teenage girl that was raped and buried alive by the officers occupying the building of the time, and all she wanted to do was for someone to hear her plight. You mightn't believe that story, but from that day on, for about 2 years, that seat never ever moved.
Ghosts around.
A sentiment shared by Shane Quintal, a pit cairner who can trace his ancestry back to the Bounty. He works in the Norfolk Cemetery, cataloguing the gravestones for the island archives. One morning, he was inspecting the inscriptions on the tombstones.
I heard a voice say to me, "Oh, excuse me." And I thought, oh, yeah. So I looked around and there was a couple of women further up the road there, and I thought, oh, that must have been just their voices had drifted down.
Shane thought no more about the voice and moved on to another gravestone. By now, the cemetery was deserted. He was alone.
Whilst I was down there, I heard this, oh, excuse me. You know, it was quite stern. So I said, oh, could you hold on a sec? Then it was, excuse me. Looked around and there was nobody in the cemetery.
Not only that, both voices were female. The tombstone and the gravestone both marked the last resting places of women named Quintal, Shane Quintal's ancestors.
You know, it sort of made you get that little chilly feeling and you think, oh dear, what have I done here? You know, have I upset somebody or something? Because I know what else could it be?
Just across the road from the graveyard, you'll find Quality Row, where for more than 100 years, ghosts have been felt, seen and heard. Phantom footsteps, piercing screams, chills in the night. One night, Maeve Hitch was at number 7 Quality Row, sitting by the fire after dinner, the only light from the flickering flames. Maeve began to sense a malevolent force in the room.
It was as if a hand touched me and pushed my face around, right around. It wasn't a painful feeling, but it was a fear, a heavy feeling on my shoulders, my head, and the whole room, the whole atmosphere in the room.
Almost hypnotically, Maeve's attention was drawn to the darkened open doorway, and slowly a vision appeared, a giant luminous cobweb.
About 8 feet long, across the doorway, right across the doorway. It wasn't like a spider's web or a web that you see indoors. It was very, very thick.
The web hovered there for 10 seconds or so. Then it disappeared.
But that heavy feeling was still there. So whatever it was still in the house. when it did leave, it just lifted. It seemed to lift. The atmosphere went, and there was no heavy feeling on me at all.
A century and a half after the brutal convict days, it seems the spirits of the dead remain. Spirits that haunt the living and make Norfolk truly an island of ghosts.
I know that some people think, oh no, they're totally crazy seeing spirits. You know, how can they do this? But it was there. You actually see it. I mean, there's hundreds of people that have seen the spirits here on Norfolk Island. So I don't think we're crazy.
This one is a quick ghostly encounters, and we can watch it. It doesn't have anything to do with the other one, but that whole island. I wanted to bring that one forward because we were talking about tribes and towns and communities and all of that. However you want to call your group, right? Well, ghosts do that too. And Lynn brought it up last night about, walking past, I think she was talking about a cemetery that had a wood line and they were up in the trees and everything else. And she was, having to deal with that. And, we were talking about, other mediums that we know that have gone through the same thing and blah, blah, blah. Please understand that ghosts gather. And in a lot of these stories you hear, you wonder why. We talked last night about them going through portals and going down the stairs and out the front door and into something else and disappearing, because it's like for whatever reason, that block of your universe is bleeding into theirs and it's on their pathway and you got to see a glimpse of it for whatever reason or another. So many cases of this. Again, last night I brought up the scene in Poltergeist where you could see the family coming down, a lot like that Titanic gif that I use every once in a while. You just see them all in a line following each other, going somewhere, right? And you get to see that every once in a while. And sometimes it's just orbs. So you'll get a lot of pictures or CCTV or security cameras in people's homes. Now you're getting a lot of that where you'll see them coming in and out. Now, a couple of days ago, I was listening to a podcast. Amy Allen was on it. She was talking about this case. Well, actually, there were several of them where she'd go in and for whatever reason, a portal or doorway was opened up into this residence or business. And the reasons for that are usually fall into categories of it was there all along. And this, for whatever reason, this mirror, this closet, this corner of this room, it's not something I can explain because I don't fully understand it. I just know that it is. And they can appear there in the woods, forest, whatever you want to call it, mountains, everywhere. Okay, we've all heard it. So she's talking about the ones that, again, were there all along and just so happens to be the closet. We've seen how many things come out of closets, right? I can't explain it, but there it is. Then you've got the ones that were opened by somebody doing something, a ritual, messing in stuff they shouldn't be, didn't realize what they were doing, opened it, didn't close it, invited it, summoned it, category. Okay. And then you got the ones where it formed from the other side for an intent coming from there, which is like the scariest one. But they're all kind of wild. But we've watched a couple of these ghostly encounters where you'll have young children. There was the one about the guy who grew up in it, saw it all the time, and got to be a plumber and came back to do a job at the place. And he's talking to the now residents, 10, 15 years later. And he said, hey, well, y'all ever seen anything here? And it's the same thing he saw, just validated over and over and over again. That these kids or young people are seeing groups of people coming out of their closet and following each other and going on about their business. Every once in a while, this is the creepy part, they'll notice him or notice her or, acknowledge that person. Oh my goodness. Aunt Edna, God bless you, darling. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you. And I got to tell you, I think I summoned you because I have been thinking about, you've been on my mind for 3 days. I'm like, what's going on with Aunt Edna? I haven't seen her. I hadn't heard from her. I feel it. I'm trying to I'm picking up little flashes, and I was thinking about you big time today when I saw you pop up and I went, oh gosh, I'm glad maybe she heard me calling. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much. That's going straight to the show. You know how we do here. And it keeps us on. It keeps us on. You get to hear me blather on about all this, just, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just up here I mean, that also can be said. We could all be living in, some kind of a video game. We're all avatars or some kind of crazy crap, we're somebody's nightmare. You know what I mean? They're just playing with us like chess pieces. Look, anything is possible, but all we can do is say, this is what I've collected over my lifetime. What do you think about it? This is what I'm thinking. Because we don't talk about these things and we don't hash them out and bring them back up and look at them again later and see if we still feel the same way about it, or do we have more information, or does something else pop out at us? Did we miss something, or are we looking at it in a different way now because we have more knowledge on something? That's what this is all about. I'm not here to criticize, other people. Well, let's be honest, I do, but I don't mean it to be hateful or hurtful for the individual. When I say something like, one of my goals is not to put flim-flam information out there, because that's one of my pet peeves in going and seeing a clickbait, cover art on something and it has a headline, and then you hit it and you find out that it has nothing to do with the description or the headline whatsoever. And if it does, and say it's on Lincoln, it's giving you these kind of pinpointed, wishy-washy facts that, maybe hearsay, maybe not, maybe it's just like the narrative that's grown over time and it's really not based in fact. And, that, and you're looking at it. It's almost like looking at the JFK assassination video, and it's like this documentary, and you look at it and they're telling you that Oswald did it himself. And there was no conspiracy and nobody was in on it. And Secret Service didn't do the things they did. And, it's like it didn't, come full stop. When you're in the paranormal for this long and you see stuff and come on, stop, You know, why are we still asking? You know, again, if you don't know, you don't know. And there's always welcome new people to come in. But if you've been in a long time and you're still saying these things, you're still telling me that going in and you've got a recorder and you went in and you sat and again, I'm making this up. This isn't anybody. And you got a couple you got some words on the EVP. I'm very excited about that. But don't then tell me that that validates everything before you got there, that this is the guy and this is the thing and this is, there's too many things out there messing with people. There are too many things out there that know that all they have to do is push a chair or knock on a wall or whatever, and they're gaining energy off of you while they're playing you in a lot of cases, because they're getting energy off of you. You're reacting to it. You're feeding it. You've got equipment there. It's drawing on that. And then what is it doing with that? You know, what's it in what is its intent? You can't just assume that everything you're talking to is open-minded to what's going on, knowledgeable about what's going on. What mind frame are they in? What mental state are they in? Where do they think they are? Do they know they're dead? What do they think of you? Do they like you? Are they messing with you? Are they going to tell the truth? You know, because you're asking them questions. You know, and then you got the people that ask the questions like, "Do you want us to leave?" And then you've got the people that ask those questions and then don't do it, or worse. You know, that's the kind of stuff where you just kind of like, why are you doing this? There's so much. If you're really interested in this, and the supernatural and the paranormal and everything else, look, I don't know, you know, any more than anybody else has been in it for at least half as long as I've been. You know, if you've been paying attention, you've got the same knowledge I have. You know? But the thing is if you're into this and you'd want to know what's really going on, you've got to open up to all this and stop falling for all these little traps. Like I was talking about last night, these walls that shouldn't even be there. Shouldn't even be there. I was trying to have a conversation on an interview I was doing about, they got all whatever about Lloyd Auerbach. And listen, I didn't even say anything. What I was saying is in the 70s, we had very few choices, although the you know, if we had internet back then, we would have had choices because people were doing this. You know, the ones who rose to the surface, the Hans Hoslers and, you know, Lloyd Auerbach was starting out about in the 70s, and Barry Taft started hooking up in about then. And they were all getting a little bit of airplay through books, local news, maybe small documentaries, maybe a little bit on, like, say, sightings, if they were lucky enough to get picked up, you know, like, you know, some of the psychics you've heard, you recognize the names, like Sylvia Brown. She was starting on going local with, you know, colleges and, you know, local TV, you know, news crews and things like that. And people would pick it up like sightings or that's incredible or whatever, and it would get airplay. Auerbach did those too. And I had said something about, well, you had the choices of, you could look towards the university people and the parapsychologists like him, like Lloyd, and like Barry Taft and some of the other ones who were rising to be noticed in those times with the small amount of venues that you had to get a chance to be noticed. And a few cases, you know, Entity got Taft noticed, and Lloyd was always out there with the documentaries and a little bit more of the, and he did this thing with Harry Blackstone once. So there you got magic, and then you had the parapsychologist. So anyway, I was just saying that you didn't have a lot of choices, but you had these two differentials going on. You had your parapsychology university type professor research stuff going on with science and testing and all of these things. And then you have people out there doing it, like Sybil Leek, who was a full-on witch. And Hans Holzler, who was a communicator and knew enough to use somebody with abilities to talk to these ghosts and just handling stuff, solving crimes, crossing people, getting all this stuff done, going in, making people, look, this is what you saw. This is why you saw it. Yeah, she didn't know she was dead. She's moving on. We're going, to get lunch. And at the same time, that was going on. That was the point I was trying to make. And they went completely over here. Well, he doesn't think. And I'm like, listen, I get it. Thank God somebody's changed since from 1970 to 1923. I'm glad they were paying attention. Listen, I don't believe the same things now I believe in 1970. Some of them I do. Some of them are stronger, but some of them have broadened, if that makes sense. So this is our last bit, and then we are out of here for tonight. I don't know how you're celebrating your New Year's. This is it for me, and I'm pleased to be here with you. I'm thrilled that you chose to be here. For everybody that's going to listen later, I hope you got a little something from it. But the basis of this whole thing is in groups, get with your tribe, do what you do best, and see if you get that wheel turning a little smoother in 2024. Okay. Now this one's just a fun one where this guy's getting attacked, and I don't understand anything this man does, where he chose to sleep, why he chose to sleep here. I think what it was, he was under, I don't know, you tell me what you think, but I think he was really under a powerful influence from whatever the heck this thing was, trying to position him almost to be hurt, I think. You tell me what you think, and then we're out.
Of an aggressive spirit, but our experts go further than that, pushing the ice stream, smirking and backing down when she threatens to kick in the door. These are also the actions of a cowardly bully. Craig Brownlee tells a story of a ghost who is passive rather than aggressive. But that doesn't make it any less frightening. And Craig and his roommate are about to have their first taste of that fear. They get permission to camp out in an abandoned house while looking for a proper place to live.
I thought it was fantastic. It was generous. All of a sudden now we had instant place to stay. We didn't know what to expect. It was a shock when we got there because it was an abandoned, dilapidated little bungalow that was in rough shape, very rough. It seemed like wherever you walked in the house, this feeling of this is a strange place would sort of overwhelm you. It was a bit cold and chilly in there. You could see a lot of issues. The drywall was starting to go. The paint was peeling off the walls a little bit in places. There was a beam in the dining room that was coming right through the ceiling, and probably there was mold. I just can't fathom that place would still be standing. I chose to sleep right underneath this collapsing beam. I don't know why I chose to sleep there, but something drew me to lay in that spot. And I was reading. I'm a wicked insomniac. So I remember putting my whatever it was I was reading down and shutting my eyes and trying to go to sleep. This noise in the kitchen. The best way I can describe it is shuffling. And I remember turning my head and looking into the entrance of the kitchen, and something's moving through the kitchen and is coming my way. I was laying in my spot underneath the collapsing beam, and I heard this noise in the kitchen. It seemed to be shuffling noises, and they were very clear, really clear to me. So I knew that it wasn't my roommate because I knew that I could hear him snoring. and the shuffling seemed to get louder, so I could tell something's moving through the kitchen and is coming my way. And I heard chains. They were dragging on the floor. I'm starting to get anxious. And then all of a sudden, this image is at the doorway. No face, it was black. It was a complete black silhouette, almost like triangular. It had a huge, wide rim hat on, almost like a cowboy hat. Even though it was a black silhouette, it was vivid. It was clear as a bell. And it came right through the doorway, said, I'm just gonna come in here, and as it came through the doorway, it vanished. It was gone. My breath was taken away. I was startled and stunned and shocked, and I jumped up and I walked to the kitchen and I looked on the floor to see if it had dropped anything, any kind of physical sign that it had been there. I saw nothing. And I went down the hall and woke my roommate up and told him about it, and he was very, very scared. He was shaking and saying, well, let's just go, let's go. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And I said, well, it's no big deal. I just let you know. I'm freaked out. I wanted to talk about it. I want to tell somebody. You know, it was such a, I've never experienced anything like that. It was extraordinary. It wasn't a ghost voice, and I can hear it as plain as you and I are talking right now. It was normal. It was matter of fact, is what is the best way to put it. I've retraced my steps about that a number of times. I wanted to finish his sentence. I'm going to come in here and have a bowl of cereal. I'm going to come in here and lay down and die. I'm going to come in here and what? I have no idea. I think that sleeping under the beam and the image coming through the kitchen was somehow connected. I don't know how, though. I don't know how. I don't know how they can't be connected, because I consider myself a fairly intelligent person, and to sleep where I did and to see what I did certainly is strange. Again, it wasn't like it was threatening or anything, and because it said what it said so casually, it didn't freak me out. Certainly, you know, my roommate was, because this guy was ultra sensitive to what happened, and it was a lot easier to scare him. There was no furniture in the house except for an old couch in the living room and a big bear skin rug in the basement with the bear head on it. And the bearskin rug was right in the middle of the floor, which was creepy, really creepy. I saw it as a prop. I could use this to freak out my roommate. It's the only thing I saw about it. When he used to come home, I would turn the power out on the breaker panel and wrap myself in that bearskin rug and then hide. And he would come in and be flicking on the lights and say, hello, hello, is anybody home? And I would be saying, and he'd say, I know you're here. And he was getting more and more scared all the time. And then I'd jump out from a closet or something and roaring like a bear with his bearskin rug on myself. Looking back, I'm horrified that I did that. I shouldn't have done that. You know, I saw how much he was so scared and shaking. I mean, I did apologize to him numerous times after that for what I did. It became a bigger deal after he saw that image. I was sitting on the couch, and we were in this hysterical laughing fit over something. And, you know, he just kind of casually glanced down the hallway, and he screamed. I just saw that thing you saw. And I said, what? I asked him to describe it. He described exactly what I saw. He said it had the big hat on. There was no face. He said, I just saw it standing in the doorway. And said, we got to get out of here. Like, we got to go. You know, if he wanted to go, and I know how hard he was taking this thing, I was all for getting out of there. I got the feeling that it took advantage of the fact that we were vulnerable or sensitive to it. Certainly he was, because he was freaked out. I would tease anybody about that kind of thing ever again, and I never did, because I'm sensitive to that now. And I'm sorry for for scaring him. And young and foolish, you know, I guess.
The phantom Craig talks about doesn't do anything. It's passive. But it still seems more terrifying than Rosanna's aggressive ghost. So frightening that two young men hightailed it out and found a new place to live. His roommate's fear is partly due to Craig's practical jokes. But Craig also may not understand the ghost in his story. He speculates it is taking advantage of their vulnerability. But our experts say it is the ghost and not the two roommates who is vulnerable. Traditionally, this would be called a prisoner ghost, trapped in the house and unable to move about freely. Passive or aggressive, it doesn't seem to matter. For Craig and Rosanna, both were scary, both made believers of their storytellers, and both ultimately became too much to live with.
Anywhere I go now, I think, you know, like there could be something in this place or about this place. Who knows what? Who knows what the reasons are? Who knows what it was? Who knows why these things happen like they do? But it's been with me ever since. So, you know, I wish I hadn't seen it, but it is what it is. I can't take it away or change it.
There you go, guys. Listen, I mean, I thought to put that in there because it also reminds us that there's going to be some stuff, you know, times we got to walk in the dark too. But we're all here, we're all together, and come in here every once a week and get charged up again. Look, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing when they're scaring us and putting the fear out and all that other stuff. So don't you let them. Don't you let them. Don't you give it to them. You go in there and you turn on your lights and you do your stuff to keep you above, and you'd make 2024 what you want it to be, in spite of it all. Just the faith the size of a mustard seed move mountains. Somebody very smart, very wise said that once. I wish you health. I wish you love. I wish you common sense. May all your moral compasses be well oiled with wisdom of your years. You know what I'm saying? Welcome in, Ron. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for those of you that were here last night and tonight. I appreciate you very much. Thank you again for the super chats and for the comments and for hitting that like. Subscribe if you haven't. We have fun here. And again, I want to send out healing vibes to Mr. Stockton, and we wish the Stocktons well and a happy new year, of course. And also, you know, people wonder why I put out all the New Year's stuff and, you know, the old 1935. Some of those clips you guys are seeing, they're from 1935. You can tell, you can see the year on the little hats some of the women are wearing, you know, and some of those shots, like Shirley MacLaine, and she's so gorgeous just sitting there in that shot, you know. It's New Year's, and you know, I can't name the movie, but I know I've probably seen it, you know, and the people dancing. And again, Scott and I were talking in the chat when we were listening to Oh gosh, Scott, what was it? It was I think it was Wizard of Oz. And it was recorded in Lux Theater. And I bet Jean Dixon was a Lux girl too. I caught that. It was funny. But we were watching, listening live to the Lux Theater from 1937, Wizard of Oz, that I did for the holidays. And Scott and I were in the chat and we were talking about, I said, imagine we're listening to people. It was done in front of a live audience and the people were actually laughing. That's the way it used to sound, instead of all this canned artificial laughter. This is how it really used to sound. And people were laughing at all the right spots. And you might hear a cough or whatever. But it was so real. And I said, we're listening to people laugh in 1937. It was kind of cool. You know, the same things from the same voices, the same script, same story. It was amazing. You know, and that's how I feel when I look at some of these people celebrating their new year, you know, going into 1934, you know, or 42, or some of these other clips, and even the one from Poseidon Adventure. And I think that's a great way to wrap up this show. Because when I saw that GIF, and I was looking for New Year's gifts, and I saw that Poseidon Adventure, I remembered the decade, maybe even 2 decades, of the disaster film outburst from Hollywood in every direction. There was mini series, there was the Friday night movie, it was the, you know, some special whatever, it was in the theaters, it was everywhere. It just really burst off the, you know, big time. And they all had the similar plot. Of course, you know, this group of people go in, you can kind of tell their characters, you're getting to know them, kind of like a Love Boat thing where everybody comes in, you see a little bit of each one. And then somebody winds up getting stuck in the elevator, or they're at a party, or, you know, Towering Inferno, you had Poseidon Adventure, you had Volcano, you had, oh God, there were so many of them. Anyhow, they're all basically the same. Poseidon Adventure did it underwater. And it was crazy, and it was pretty well written, you know. But when I saw that GIF where they celebrated New Year's on that ship in Poseidon Adventure, and they were all partying, and they were all, you know, you had people worried about their nails and did their dress match their shoes, and, you know, did they have the Gucci purse, and then you had people that were just working there and trying to hack out a living, and, you know, all the different walks of life. And there they are, all celebrating one New Year's Eve, and they don't know that they're about to flip upside down underwater, you know? And it just kind of metaphorically kind of meant something, you know, to me. And I thought about this comment that I read under one of the videos I was watching, and it said, going in from 2023 to 2024, it's kind of like being at a crime scene, and you just saw the body in the kitchen, and you know you got 3 bedrooms back there to go through, and you don't want to go look. The possibility. But you know what? As a light worker and a warrior in spiritual warfare, however, wherever you're standing on your medicine wheel, look what you've already come through. Look at the armor that you've built up. Look at the wisdom that you've built up. Look at the tools. You should be at the point where you're like, you know, all of this neuro-linguistic propaganda BS and, you know, everything else that's trying to get you your attention. You should just be able to, you know, you can't do that all the time. There's going to be times where it gets heavy. Remember, I said it's heavy. The dark is heavy. So try to pull you down. That's when you reach up to one of us, one of your tribe, or one of your tools, and you pull yourself right back up into that light. And if you keep doing that in 2024, not only will you get yourself through it, but everybody that follows you or pays attention will also get through, because people are going to notice. People are going to notice. And the story we just saw shows us that there's some dark out there. You better believe it. We don't deny it here on this show. We just know what beats it, you know. And we might seem arrogant about it, but at some point you just, you know what you know. And that's what it looks like sometimes. Because you've been in the foxhole, you've seen the darkness, you've walked through untold stories. You've walked through the darkness of pain, suffering, illness, loss, trauma, drama, bullshit, lies. You've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray. And you survived it all. Here we are. And we're going into 2024 together. I love each and every one of you. And, like I said, I send lots and lots of love to Steve. I hate that he was sick tonight, but I'm glad we got a chance to talk about what it's going to take to get through 2024. I don't need to tell you. You're not, you're here and you're still listening. You know what it's going to take. That's why I tell you, get it in a book form. Do whatever, teach it. If you know it, teach it. If you don't know it, learn it. And try to find others that will. At this point, the ones that aren't talking to us anymore, they ain't talking to us anymore. They may come around, they may not. You got things to do. You got things to do. You can't save everybody on that elevator. There's going to be some draggers. I learned that in the 70s. I watched the movies. I read the books. Happens every time. I know how to get off that ship, upside down or not. I know how to keep from going down in the Titanic. We've seen it all. The wars, the fighting, the depressions, the Hoovervilles, the homeless camps. Ain't nothing new. Not the climate, not the lies, not the bullshit, not the corruption. Nothing new. What is new is that more light workers are on this earth right now because we chose to incarnate for this time. We came in with knowledge, came in with the secret. We know what wins. And we picked to be here and incarnate back here, and we weren't playing. They're not the only ones with bloodlines. We got a lot of spirits standing behind us. All we got to do is listen and use what we already know. There's a lot more we got to learn. Let's go learn it in 2024. I love you all. Thank you for being here. I'm going to play this again on the way out. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I got to go to work tomorrow. I put together some beautiful flowers. Again, stay in nature if you can. I love you all. Happy New Year. And thank you for being here. Keep the lights on.